Greetings, fellow Whovians, and welcome back to Unrepentant Geeking, the show where a geek can be a geek, and where I have my full voice back, finally. Yay! Anyways, so we're here to take a look at the latest episode of Doctor Who, but I just want to let you all know, change is a-coming. Because earlier this week, I ordered a new computer. Finally, I've been using this good old machine for about 6 years. Yeah. Like, I can't, about a year ago, probably less than a year ago, a while back, I think it was actually back during E3, I tried to, with some help from a friend of the show, Petros Elanyu, set up to do some live streaming, and we just discovered, nope, my computer couldn't handle it, just could not handle it. So, yeah, I'm getting a new computer, and I'm really excited. It means I'll be able to do a number of things, especially, hopefully, maybe start doing some live streams from time to time. Will anybody watch? Probably not, but then again, not many people are watching this, so who cares? Anyways, change is coming. We'll see how that affects the show. I don't think it's going to change things much for this particular show, but you never know. Anyways, let's get on with it. So, we have with us episode 7 of season 11 of Doctor Who, Kerblam! With an exclamation mark. It is important to note. I would say that, yeah, overall the episode justifies that. Definitely justifies the exclamation mark. This comes to us, it's directed by Jennifer Parrott, written by Pete McThigh, who has, he's written for shows like Glitch, Neighbors, The Dr. Blake Mysteries, a show my mother absolutely loves. Loves. I've got nothing against it either way. I haven't actually watched it myself. I just felt compelled to comment on how much she likes it. Anyways, so he's a proven writer on the BBC, on the British scene, and yeah, he definitely shows that with this, which is a strong episode overall for the show, and I feel like should be a good answer to those who have been complaining that the show's gotten too stark and blah blah, can't have fun, because this was a fun, if at times dark episode of Doctor Who. This was very classic Who. This was classic message Who. This was we Demons of the Punjab and Rosa were message episodes definitely, but they were messages in a way that Doctor Who's never really done before, as I liked to, or rarely did, where they basically stripped away the metaphor largely and just confronted these things head on. This, on the other hand, was a classic metaphor episode. Message episode, a classic metaphor message episode of Doctor Who, where they're tackling an interesting or complicated issue today and using the veneer of science fiction as a way to comment on it and take it to extremes that you couldn't necessarily in the real world. Although really, the sad thing is, honestly, having a couple of friends who have or are currently working for Amazon in various areas, it ain't that exaggerated. So, yeah, basically, the plot of the episode, for those of you who don't know, is the Doctor gets a delivery in the TARDIS, and it's a Fez. Yay! First of several references to past Doctor thingamabobs, adventures, whatever you want to call them. But along with the little package, which comes in from a very creepy delivery robot that the Doctor apparently finds adorable, sure, is a message calling for help. So the Doctor and her companions head to the moon, where the corporation Kerblam basically thinks Space Amazon. They're so big, they've colonized the entire moon and turned it into a giant warehouse. And this is a far in the future. Where humanity has largely been replaced by machines in terms of the workforce. Where they have where Kerblam is proud to announce they have, following, riots and strikes and all sorts of things like that they're following the requirement to have a 10% human workforce, and they're very proud of that fact. And all of this is definitely stuff that, provided the whole world doesn't just collapse into ecological disaster, which is not a guarantee at this point. As a matter of fact, it's looking less and less like there's any. Nope. Moving on. Is definitely something we're going to have to face as a society, as a species, going forward. And the episode has some interesting things to say, although the message gets a bit muddled. So, this is your last chance. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I'm about to go very spoiler heavy. You've been warned. Yeah, okay. What I liked about this episode was also, in some ways, the very thing that kind of undercuts or muddles the message a bit, and that was, I didn't expect exactly where things went. In a normal episode like this, especially in any kind of science fiction show, but especially Doctor Who, you'd probably either have, evil machines gone wrong, sentient machines gone wrong, or evil corporation gone wrong, And instead, you get something that's a little more complicated, where the source of what brings it there, who was calling for the help, was the automated system itself, because it was aware that one of the workers was basically something of a, well, let's call it a terrorist, a radical individual who believed that, that the automation was evil and that it was ruining lives, and that they, and concocted this horrifying plan to basically fill all the packages going out from Kerblam with that old reliable standby bubble wrap, but not just any bubble wrap that would explode when popped, because who can resist popping bubble wrap? No one. It's a devious, messed up kind of plot that's very classic Doctor Who, taking something obnoxious, something everyday, something seemingly harmless, and making it, something dangerous, even frightening. And it's really executed so well, because the episode doesn't telegraph what's really going on, and it does a good job of subverting expectations, because it turns out the two corporate overlords who you think are one or the other or both will be the bad guys. No, they're both actually relatively decent people. One of them's kind of an asshole, he's a bit of a jerk, but then again, when you realize that he knows something's going on, he can't figure out what, and he can't stop it, maybe him being a jerk is almost understandable. The other's just an outright good person, played by Julie Himsdala, I hope I said that right, who's just really winning. She's really just, I loved her. I loved the character, and I loved the way she played it. She was just really fun to have in the episode in general. Neither of them are actually the bad guys, and neither is the system itself, sort of. See, the thing is, it's clear, there's a moment where the Doctor says very clearly, no, the automation isn't the problem, it's the way it's being used. It's the idea that you don't blame the gun, you blame the hand that holds the gun, and the reason, and the forces that allow the hand to hold the gun. Yeah, I'm very, yes, if you don't know where I stand, gun control all the fucking way. Anyways, automation isn't evil in and of itself. These are problems, but it's not the system's fault. It's more complicated than that. And even then, you're not going to accomplish anything by killing millions of people. That kind of sacrifice, that kind of hideous, algebra is not okay, and it's not the right way to change things, and maybe there isn't an easy way. The problem is, it's really clever, and it's really smart, and I really appreciated it, just kind of taking it in terms of the episode in and of itself. The problem is, it also does kind of seem to paint the message that, no, that automation isn't bad, and that, look, Amazon is good, and none of the, and I don't think that's what's being said at all. I mean, the reality is that the corporation is part of the problem. The fact that, that it takes something this extreme and dramatic to realize that just because it's cheaper, there have to be better ways, and you can't just cut people out of the system, and you need to treat people with dignity and respect, and you need to get, you need to not just consider them disposable. You need to not treat your workforce like it's disposable. There are better ways to behave. So the problem is the corporation, but it's the corporation much higher up than the two corporate drones we get to see, and those characters basically remain off screen. The real villains, as it were, aside from, of course, our terrorist, who is definitely a villain and is definitely part of the problem, but, the larger problems being caused by characters we never see, but there's not really a way to bring them in. Look, I kind of get it. This was clearly an episode, clearly the writer, clearly McTee wanted to try and do something unexpected. He was very clearly trying to take the normal Doctor Who setup and subvert it, as I've already said. And I appreciate that, and I think in the end it works, and I think it does muddle the message a bit, and that's always the problem with these message episodes, of course, especially when you're using them not just as a straightforward, not when you're drenching them in metaphor, when you're drenching them in from a remove, when you're tackling an issue from a remove, i.e. a futuristic setting that echoes the real world but isn't as directly set in the real world as, again, Demons of Punjab or Rosa. The problem is it can lead to the message not quite necessarily coming through as clearly. And that is a risk, and it's not great, but I'm not going to hold that too heavily against an episode that otherwise is just so well done. I loved so much about this episode. First of all, like I said, the guest cast was overall excellent. In addition to our two corporate drones, we had our bad guy, played by Charlie Duffy, Charlie Duffy's the character. Duh, Shaun. No, played by Leo Flanagan. Sorry. who does a good job first imbuing the character of seeming innocence, though something a little maybe off, and then doing a good job of, doing the villain turn. And then you have a really nice performance by Claudia Jessie as the innocent and ultimately tragic Kira. That was the other note that kind of this was a darker episode. This was definitely, it had a bit of a higher body count in a way, or it was a bit more cavalier with the body count in a way that we haven't seen as much this season, where when people have died, there was the spider episode that did it. Anyways, I thought the show kind of glossed over her death. I feel like that should have been a bit more intense. I liked what they did with the guy who's basically helping Kaz, Dan Cooper, played by Lee Mack. He's a well-known comedian in Britain. He starred in a number of sitcoms and stuff. And, he was a fun, his screen time was brief, and boy, they didn't hesitate to telegraph, oh, he's gonna die, but it was still effective and well done. I really liked the little scene at the end where Yaz is affected enough by his death to say, well, we need to go and tell his family what happened. I can't just let it go. And I thought that was a nice moment of characterization for Yaz, who overall had a strong episode. I'm not going to say they've completely solved the Yaz problem yet, but I do feel like they did a better job in this episode, I think, kind of, in subtle and not so subtle ways, expressing the idea that this is somebody who is a diehard police officer. I really felt that came off a bit better. I liked the character beat at the end, and I felt like that echoed the loss she felt and the lie that her own grandmother was telling. I felt like that was, in some ways, that scene happened as a direct response to the previous episode. So I feel like she's coming more and more to focus. And of course, as always, I love what they did with Graham and Ryan. Good stuff with both of them. It was a really fun episode. Like I said, my biggest complaints were I thought the message got a little muddled. And I thought that, I'm not again, the Kira death was a bit cruel. And it also was kind of a bit strange that the doctors just kind of blithely, I understand the system had, in theory, its heart, quote unquote, in the right place, I guess. Maybe its intentions were good, but its methods were horrific. And are you really okay, Doctor, with letting the system just go with the fact that it just committed bold-faced murder? And that it was continually committing murder? That's no. I feel like she should have been a bit more bothered by that. And I do get it. It kind of gets glossed over because we've only got so much time in an episode and all that. But it did feel kind of like we could have used at least a line of the doctor at the end going, when they're saying we're going to shut down the system and figure things out. And she also goes, yeah, and you can't make sure it can never kill somebody ever again because that shit ain't right. And if you don't, I'm going to come back and deal with it. Even a line addressing the fact that what the system did was way over the line in its own way. But, and this is the first time in the season we've had the Doctor essentially let or actively take down, in the life of the episode villain. In some ways, that feels noteworthy, and I'm not sure if the episode quite gave that enough weight either. But, at the same time, she did try to warn him, and he kind of froze like a deer in headlights. It wasn't like she actively was trying to kill him. She was desperately scrambling to try and save the day. Regardless, those are fairly minor complaints in what I would say is a solid B+, maybe even A- episode of Doctor Who. There's just a lot to enjoy here. I liked the callback with the Fez. I liked the callback to the Agatha Christie adventure. But I enjoyed the way all the different characters felt lived in. The place felt lived in. This felt like something relatable and understandable, but at the same time futuristic and big. And it felt like classic Who. As much as I found them creepy, that's not a complaint. I loved the designs for our robot overseers and delivery men. That was a perfect Who kind of design. You could see how somebody might find them cute, even while you could also see while somebody like me might find them incredibly creepy. And the little robot, the first generation delivery robot, was just, oh my god, if they don't make toys and plushies of him, we need a whole, between this and the cute little, destructive alien and a couple episodes back, we got a whole new line of characters just waiting to become adorable plushies for kids and not so kids to buy and own. Regardless, I liked, that was great. The scene, where they're traveling down the chutes was well done. It was fun. Definitely, they got the most out of their budget. They did it well. It was arguably not necessary, but why not have some fun if the chance is available? And overall, I thought the episode worked. There were a couple missteps, but those were the kind of honest missteps you're going to get. And I would rather the show try and do something different and smart and try and do something effective and maybe not quite hit it than not try at all. I'll always respect effort that doesn't quite succeed more than I'll respect non-effort that's just perfectly flat and bland. And this was definitely not a bland episode of Doctor Who. But next week is when the fun's really going to start. I have not. Now, if you don't know, there was a whole thing where Amazon accidentally put next week's episode up online, when people bought this week's episode. So some people have gotten to see it, and I'm sure it's now available leaked online. I've not watched it yet, but I do know that we have Alan Cumming playing the Witchfinder, which, if you don't know what a Witchfinder is, go look it up. And for the love of God, Alan Cumming is going to be on Doctor Who. Oh, it's everything I could want. So we're getting another historical episode, and it sounds like we're getting a historical episode that should be a bit more fun, quote unquote, which I know has bothered some people. I'm sure there will be some heavier stuff, and we're going to a potentially messed up time, but I suspect we won't get something quite as intense as we got with Rosa and as we got with Demons of Punjab, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm fine with us having a fun historical adventure. So I think that's going to hopefully answer some people's complaints or whatever. Like I said, if I continue to harp on this, it's just because I can't kind of hold it in. Like, I'm really just kind of rolling my eyes, palming my face, whatever meme you want to use, times 1,000 for people who think this is the end of Doctor Who. Like, there's a whole set of people who are apparently either not very bright or being deliberately bad players who are like, the ratings have dropped, Doctor Who is dying. And yes, the ratings have dropped dramatically from the first episode. Guess what, boys and girls? Go look at the rating drops between previous first episodes of seasons, especially first episodes of Doctor Who seasons where we had a new Doctor, followed by remaining episodes across the season. They've dropped as much or even more. This is exactly what you would expect. The ratings so far have been fine. They've been great. Whatever. This is a stupid thing to use as a metrics in and of itself, especially with something like Doctor Who. I've wasted enough time on this. This was a great episode. This is a great season. Like I said, at this point, they could blow every single one of the remaining episodes, and I would still call this a great season. Absolutely check out Kerblam, and I'm really looking forward to our next adventure, and Alan Cumming finally entering the Doctor Who universe. Oh, this is hopefully going to be a lot of fun. And that's going to do it for this episode of Unrepentant Geeking. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you back here next week when we take a look at the aforementioned episode with Alan Cummings. That should be a lot of fun. Since I got a couple emails asking, yes, I do intend to keep doing the show regularly, even once the season comes to end. I'm already working on a number of other reviews. I mentioned I want to do a review of She-Ra. There's some stuff of Over the Wall I've got planned. Over the Garden Wall, God. Would help if I said the title right. Anyways, I've got plans. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it weekly. We'll see. But definitely going to keep going and try and keep up the pace. We'll see how it goes. And as I said at the start, I am getting a new computer, so we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. That could mean I end up having to take a break for a couple weeks while I get it all fixed and worked out. I don't know. That probably... No, not a couple weeks. I mean, whatever. We'll see where things go once everything is set up. So that's going to do it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching. Please share, I'm tired. Retweet, and whatever else you can do. For Unrepentant Geeking, this is Shaun, wishing you all long days and pleasant nights.